On today's Chasing the Game, we have Toledo volleyball head coach Brian Wright. We talk about him taking over the program this offseason, his career as a coach, and where the sport is headed next. Chasing the Game starts right now. Welcome into Chasing the Game. Brian Wright is here. Brian, thank you so much for coming in and doing this and just being a part of the show. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So what's kind of life been like the past few months? You took over the program in December. How's life? How are things?
Nonstop in the best way possible. The city has been amazingly welcoming to me. Just getting to know everybody. I got about 4 months of training the team and getting things going. Just absolutely fell in love with the returners and where we are and where we're going with the program, and did some recruiting, brought some people in. We just had 7 players show up this summer, and now I'm out there recruiting, getting on the road. We just had our summer camps. We had some really great numbers, and now we're planning a fundraiser and getting ready for the first season ever.
Absolutely. You were at Ohio State for several years, so being to Toledo can't be that much of a culture shock, right? I mean, you're a Texas guy originally, but you've been at Ohio State the last few years, so Ohio isn't too unfamiliar with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Being in the Midwest now for about 5.5 years, and just this area of the country in general, it has been like I've absolutely loved it. There's really are the players that walk in the gym. There's never a question on whether or not they're going to work their hardest, and just having people that love this area, and Toledo is in such a fantastic spot to recruit. There's so much talent within 3 hours of here that I've gotten to drive all around, everywhere from Indianapolis to Cincinnati to Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, that little circle, and it's been really good for recruiting.
Yeah, we had Alex Del Piombo, Bowling Green head coach. She's brand new, just like you. She was talking about the recruiting base around this area. The Midwest is great. Michigan especially, they got all these clubs, they got all these really terrific players. How does it compare to maybe the girls in Texas or the Plain States, the South, that you had probably familiarized yourself with for a long time?
Yeah, I'd built a ton of connections in Texas, and we could still get a player or two from Texas to come up here. We've got a player from Arizona and a player from Hawaii and on the team right now, so I know we can expand that base. I think the joke is, and the kind of the thing is, like, why is everybody so tall in Texas? There's a lot more height there, but what I find here is that the clubs really focus on skill, work ethic, and some things that really lead towards my goals of just like being consistently great every day. If we take care of those things, we know that we have a chance to win every single match and every time we walk on the court.
You and I were talking before we started this, and it's so interesting, your story. You didn't start playing volleyball until you were 18, right? How did that happen? What's the story there with how you started?
I played all the sports growing up. Being from Texas, and this is a little while ago, I didn't even know guys played volleyball. I'd watched some of it and I had fun watching it, but when I turned 18, I was playing soccer in high school, and some of those buddies were like, hey, we heard about this little JV league. We can just kind of make our own team. We won't have a coach. We go play. And just fell in love with the sport and went to school at the University of Texas the next year. Wasn't going to play sports, I didn't think. And I found out they had a men's club team and joined it. Loved it. Every single person on that team was so much older than me that year, so I really got to learn from some great people. But then they all graduated, and club sports are student-run organizations. So all of a sudden, I'm a sophomore, and I'm now running the men's club program. That got me a phone call, turned into coaching club, and by 19, I'd been playing the game for a year, and all of a sudden, my coaching career started. And I think one of my funniest things, like, I was a math and computer science major. I thought that's what I wanted to do in life. I found coaching hard left. Everything from that point on has been coaching and people, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, it's so crazy because you got, like you said, right into coaching. You were playing at 18, and then by 23, you're like running your own club. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Kind of accidentally happened, and now I'm running a club, and that's honestly one of the reasons I've turned into like wanting to be a head coach and wanting to end up where I am exactly today. And some of the people that I hired or worked with in that club are now running some of the best clubs in the city of Austin, coaching the best high schools in Austin. Like, the city of Austin's a better volleyball city today because of some of the time I put in back then. And I knew when I took this job, I look at all the success of the attendance records and stuff that women's basketball has here in the city, and I say, this is a city that supports women's sports, and I can do something really special, and I want to see, whether it's 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like, I want people to realize Toledo is a volleyball city, Toledo is a volleyball school, and I want to watch this entire area grow up while building the program even further.
Yeah. Can you explain more about how the fact that you were running a club and that's kind of what propelled you to being a Division I assistant coach?
Yeah. So I'm running a club. I'm doing all the ins and outs. I went and coached a season of D3, loved it. I was running my own summer camp program, and I was hiring college coaches at time to come in and run some of the camps. It was great. It would bring in more campers. People wanted to work with them. And I just got done with the session one time, and I asked the current assistant at the time at the University of Texas, like, hey, how do I make this leap from D3 to D1? What is it like? Because at this point, I'd been coaching for 7 years. I had that 1 year of college coach experience, a bunch of club experience, and I said, like, what's D1 like? And he gives me the standard answer. This is how you get your foot in the door, all this stuff. And then the next morning, the head coach gives me a call and says, hey, our season starts in 10 days. Our volunteer assistant spot is wide open. Would you like to come in and interview for it? And the next thing you know, I'm interviewing for that. I take over, became into that position. And for the next 7 years, I would coach full-time at Texas from August to December. I would coach 2 club teams from December to June, and then I would work 12-hour camp days all of June and July and just run my own summer camp program.
Which is just crazy. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of other coaches that have that kind of schedule where you're coaching in the fall at college level, high college level, and then you're running clubs in the off season, or you're doing all this travel ball, whatever. It's just insane, the grind that I'm sure you were on. What's that like being at Texas? I mean, one of the premier programs in volleyball. I mean, Big 12, you go up against Nebraska and all these great programs. What's that like being in, one of the high-level volleyball programs in America?
That was fun for me because at that time I was coaching a lot of 10 to 18-year-olds in camps. I had coached everything from 1-11 season to a 14s and 15s, 17 seasons. So like I was in that kind of developmental phase with a lot of players. And all of a sudden, I'm coaching some of the best players in the country. First team All-Americans. I think 4 or 5 of the people that I coached over those 7 years eventually went on to play in the Olympics at some point in the next 6 to 8 years. So I'm working with some of the best players in the country and just watching how they put in work every single day. But that also means I'm working with some of the best coaches in the country that not only know how to grow something to the top, but know how to stay there. And so I learned a ton from just the culture and the way of doing those things every day. But yeah, then I get to win 6 Big 12 championships, go to the Final Four 6 times, win a national championship, like all those massive, cool highlights. And that's just my fall. And then I would go back again to the spring, and I would get to coach 2 club teams. And I think like it was really easy to be my best self when you're in the mode of being in the gym 12 months a year. As a head coach right now, the NCAA limits us. I get my time in the spring, I get my time in the season, but there's a lot of months where I'm planning for what's next as opposed to like constantly being in the gym. So it was a blast just getting to really explore myself as a coach at a lot of levels for a lot of years in a row.
What was that like? I mean, I imagine that Austin was probably like a dream for you to be, assistant coach for Texas. How'd you get out to the Midwest? How'd you get to Ohio State?
Yeah. I kept waiting for the right opportunity. I knew I wanted to coach in college. I knew I wanted in club. I would get to coach somebody, and then I'd get to watch them off in the distance grow up. But I wanted to coach in college, and I loved watching somebody from how far they develop from the time they're a freshman to a senior. And I took an assistant coaching job at TCU, so that was about 3 hours north of Austin in Fort Worth. So I stayed in the Big 12 for another 5 years there. And I was looking to make a little bit of a change. I was trying to see, where could I go next? Who could I learn from next? And the Ohio State job comes open, and that's one of those schools that, like, I don't care where you grow up, you've heard of it, it's a big-time athletic school. And so when I got that call, I immediately wanted to go out there, wanted to check it out, and then I got 5 years of assistant coaching in the Big Ten and being a part of that.
So what was that like going against the Penn States, the Wisconsins, and was Nebraska again? I mean, You had them in the Big 12, and then you have them in the Big 10. So what was that like going against all the great programs?
I basically moved with them. I get to Columbus. It's February of 2020. I've just moved to a new city. I don't know anybody
yet. It's a great
yet.
time to move.
And next thing you know, I'm in my apartment for 5 straight months, right? Yeah. And coaching the team on Zoom and everything else. We went 11 months there before we ever coached a match. That fall season got moved to the spring. And then we went 11 straight months of only coaching matches because of the spring season and then the next fall. And so it was a very interesting time. But I remember that first spring. We went out to Nebraska. They had, for the COVID schedule, they had you'd play somebody twice. There's no fans in the place. They would let in like a couple of family members. We're testing every morning at 6:30. That was fun. But I remember going up against Nebraska pretty early in that season, and we played them back-to-back nights. Both matches go 5 sets, are 3-hour battles. We lose one 15-13 in the 5th. We win the next day 15-13 in the 5th. And I just remember thinking, like, man, that was 6 hours of fun volleyball. Like, great players on both sides, high level coaching on both sides. And I remember there's an interaction with me and the Nebraska assistant at the time. We were like, that was fun. Yeah. Like, this is what sports are supposed to be about. This is high level stuff. And I was only bummed that they didn't get to fill the stands to watch that battle.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen, in the years that have followed, Nebraska's been able to sell out a football stadium. You guys were part of the Ohio State team that went to Bowling Green last fall, and they sold out their stadium. I think that's their best attended game in program history, first ever sellout. Are you hopeful that happens for Toledo, that you guys can sell out Savage, that you can have that as a regular occurrence, every season?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, as I'm doing my research and looking for head coaching jobs, our AD, Brian, is absolutely an amazing guy. He's taking all of Toledo to a big level, but he believes in volleyball, and he sees what's happening around the country, and he watches this growth of attendance, and he knows now's the time we can do the same thing. And so I walked into my press conference. I've said it to every single person I've talked to, but I plan to double attendance in the first 3 years. And when you say that out loud, you don't just walk into a whole bunch of offices and marketing and digital and everybody else and tell them, like, hey guys, double attendance. Like, if I would say it out loud, I got to put the work in. And so I've talked to our team has bought in. They're putting themselves in the community to do it as well, and we're just doing every single thing we can to capture this moment, and the momentum is there, and I'm really excited to watch it. But Savage is, like, when I called MAC coaches to ask them, is this a job I want? They all told me, you're centrally located, you've got the easiest travel, and you've got best facilities. And I walked to the door and I'm like, I mean, the things we can do in that arena and just the show we can put on for the fans, not to mention the show we can put on the court, I know this is an upward spiral that's just going to continue to grow and continue to grow. But when I saw how successful the attendance has been with women's basketball in the city for so long, I saw a city that supports women's sports. And again, I just said, like, I know we can grow, and now's the time to really watch volleyball take off as well.
It is crazy how much, sports like volleyball have kind of exploded. I mean, we've seen women's basketball obviously do very well, especially in college in this NIL era. Is it probably the best time to be a part of volleyball on this kind of upward trajectory? Like, get on the bandwagon now as it becomes the sport that, I mean, we all talk about college football, men's and women's basketball, baseball even, but I think volleyball is kind of uniquely situated that it could be like another sport that makes a ton of revenue, and players can kind of see that and be a part of it. Do you kind of see that as the situation? Is volleyball kind of being this NIL sport that can make a ton of money?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think you've got some conferences, a lot of conferences that are really taking off with volleyball. You still have some conferences where, a little bit further south in this country that are choosing maybe softball as that sport, but like volleyball right now is the other women's sport that's being pushed in a really big direction. And I think some really cool, like if you'd have told me this 25 years ago when I started coaching, this is where our sport's going to be today, and we're going to have all of these things that we can continue to do to support the athletes. Like, it blows my mind where we've come. Watching, I think TV games last year, the national championships on ABC, and you've got NBC and Fox and others picking up a lot of these games, and just all of the national exposure that's kind of coming to the sport right now. For me, on the outside looking in, what I watched in women's basketball over the last 5 years was an increased highlight on who the people were. And the cool thing for me is in volleyball, there's a lot of really special people to highlight. And if people, like, instead of just promoting the sport, if we promote the people that are in the sport, I think that's when the fans are like, holy cow, like, I don't want to just come to one game. I want to support her. And one of my favorite parts about Toledo, we've got like a third of our team is going into the medical field, future physical therapists, future doctors, PAs, nurses. We've got some engineers, we've got business leaders, we got people that want to go be teachers. Like, we have athletes that have really big dreams past college and want to win the MAC and are great volleyball players at the same time. So when fans get to know them and get to know their stories and see those big dreams, that's when I know, like, they're going to want to come and support who they are as people.
Yeah, the thing with the NFL, college football, the NBA, they are able to build these storylines, and that's something that obviously a sport that's less covered, you can't, they don't have that sort of depth of coverage, but that's something that's obviously on the horizon for volleyball. We see it in some capacity, like you said, it's on ABC. They do a good job of kind of creating these storylines, creating these characters, building stuff up. So that's obviously on the horizon for the sport. And since you've been introduced, there was the House NCAA settlement. Now schools can pay players directly. How does Toledo figure into that? I mean, is that something that you guys were preparing for or prepared for?
Yeah. Brian's a really good leader and he knows what he's doing. And but I also think just the timing of the opening of my position. So when I'm coming into the interviews and in that late December process, everybody knew this was happening. It was a matter of are there going to be some small details that are going to get worked out? But he was planning ahead for it, and those were conversations we were having in the interview process. So I knew that he was prepared to make volleyball a premier sport and to really kind of push it forward and capture the momentum of what's going on in the country, but also latch on to the women's sports city that this is. Yeah,
you guys are selling season tickets now for the first time.
Yeah.
Was that something that you kind of brought to the table? Was that something that somebody else at the athletic department was like, we got to strike while the iron's hot? How did that happen?
It was probably all of it, and I don't know where it came from first, but I think we were all probably on the same page, and just when that messaging came out. But it was January or February when I was I'm sitting down with some of our deputy AD and some others, and I'm like, how do we do this? This is what we need to do. And then I go meet with one of our biggest donors, and they have this list of things they'd love to see for the program, which is just the coolest thing that they're invested like that. And the first one on their list was, let's get season tickets and legitimize the sport. So between the community wanting it, us wanting it, I think the athletic department wanted it. It was a no-brainer that this was going to be the first ever year to do it. And really cool story. Last week, we actually had our players calling season ticket holders of other sports at Toledo. They sat down in the ticket office for half of them for an hour. The next half came in for an hour and just made calls and just told people why they were worth supporting as people. And I think we sold something like 20 season tickets in that 2 hours. And then a bunch of the voicemails we left have turned into people calling back as well. So I think it just proves this team understands their impact on the community and is willing to put themselves out there and be a part of the process. And say hey, get to know me and I'm worth supporting.
Yeah, you guys have the season, exhibition against Finley, I think August 23rd,
Yes.
Open the season August 29th. What's this last 5 weeks, month going to be like leading up to the season?
Yeah, we've got the next 5-6 weeks is going to be a blast. So a few months back, I started, I was like, there's some things I want to do for the game day environment in the arena, and I started getting quotes on all this stuff. I'm like, all right, we got to raise some money, and so we're running our first ever fundraiser. We've got this bingo event we're running. It's actually next Saturday. We're 6 days away. I'm blown away that we're this close and we've come this far. But we set a goal of we want to sell out that room, and we only have 3 seats left as of right now, which is absolutely fantastic, and we've had donations from all over the city, and it's going to be a really fantastic event. So that's fun. We've been put a lot of work into making sure. We knew if we did that well, this is going to become an annual thing that the city is going to look forward to. And then you fast forward about a week and we get to start double days and we get to start training. And I always say it's one of the best times for a student athlete. It's about 3 weeks that they get to pretend to be a professional athlete. Classes haven't started yet. You can do volleyball all day long. You can eat meals together. You can watch a bunch of film, and you can just really bond as a group. And so I'm really looking forward to that. It's a lot of time with them that we don't always get as much of that in the summer. So we kind of get back together. And then we lead into the exhibition on August 23rd. We will, 95%, we'll have details soon, but we should be running another Volleyball 101 type session after that match, which is basically asking the community, stay after, get to know us, spend an hour with us, get to know the team. We'll teach you a little bit about the rules and strategy. We'll show you some of the things there. And selfishly, it's because I know if somebody spends an hour with the team, they're going to want to support them and they're going to want to come back more. And then we're 6 days after that, August 29th, 30th, 31st. Those become the first ever 3 matches that officially count in my era here. So pumped to kick off opening weekend at home.
Are you nervous at all, being a head coach for the first time, being the guy instead of, an assistant on a staff? You're running things now, you're the guy?
Yeah, I mean, when I first set out for this bingo event, and we put the admissions out there, and did all this stuff, and we didn't sell a single ticket for the first 4 days. I'm not sleeping at night going like, oh my God, is this going to fail? Nobody wants to come. And now you fast forward 3.5 months later, and we're 3 seats away from selling it out. So there's those moments where when you come up, especially with new things, where you're like, what if this new thing doesn't, kick off the ground and go? Where I'm not nervous is in the gym, on the sidelines, like between club and USA Volleyball and some other things that I've done. Like, I've been used to being kind of the decision maker on exactly when you're making subs and when you're calling timeouts, and those sides of head coaching I've done my whole life. That's the easy part, but it's the growing of this community. It's the growing of all the new that we do, that every time I come up with an idea, I'm like, I have to crush it to make sure this thing doesn't fail.
Did you feel that you had to change a lot between what the old head coach was doing, what the program was doing previously? Did you feel like you had to go in and be this kind of revolutionary, be this kind of change maker? Did it feel like a pretty seamless transition?
Yeah, definitely didn't need to make big changes. The last head coach was here for 7 years and did a fantastic job of from where the program was to where it finished. It was growth the whole time he was here. There was the last 4 years made the conference tournament. I think that's the first time in program history to do that for 4 straight years. One of only 3 programs in the MAC that's been in the conference tournament all 4 of those last 4 years. So the program's had success. The culture's good. One of our assistants will be going into her 10th season this year. There's some continuity there. Getting to know her, rehired her was one of the very first choices I've made, and she's been a big part of the recruiting and why the culture is so good in this program. So there was a lot of continuity, and at the same time, we want to take that next step and win that final match of the conference tournament and hang that MAC championship banner. And so I said, look, we don't have to overhaul the culture, but we got to add on. We got to do a little bit more. We got to figure out what that looks like. So, the day I got hired, which is crazy, Christmas Eve, signing a contract, Christmas Day, meeting the team on Zoom. And on the 26th, the article gets released publicly. From the 26th through the 30th, I'm on the phone with every single player, and those are exactly what I was asking. What's going well that we got to keep going, and where do we need to make those small little leaps to take that next step?
Yeah. And it sounds like not everything needed to be completely, broken and remolded.
Yeah.
I'm a Bowling Green grad, so I have to ask. You got the rivalry coming up. I'm sure that you've had people come up to you, alumni people, like, we got to beat Bowling Green. Bowling Green's one of the premier programs in the conference. Are you preparing for that? Is that something that you guys talk about at all, or is that a lot of people come in, they're like, it's just another game. We got to keep it in perspective. How do you kind of treat the rivalry?
Yeah, like I want to keep that going for the fans. I think that's what college sports is all about. Big rivalries create buzz around games. They give both of us the ability to increase your attendance at a game like that, because people get more excited about it. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from that. Having anytime 2 universities are this close in proximity, there's going to be a little bit of that's really cool and really good for the sport. So I'm excited for all that. I'll probably feel even more of the real rivalry once I've walked in there and seen that first crowd and we've gone at each other the first time. But as a coach, I'm the be consistently great every day guy that says you show up in a way that keeps you from getting upset as often as possible, that keeps you from having to need to upset people, but just says this is where we are every single day. And at the end of the day, I trust in our training and who we're going to be, and we'll show up and see how good we are that day. And if we're good enough, we win, and if we're not, we figure out how to get better the next day.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Chasing the Game. Be sure to check out all of our other episodes on the WTOL 11 Plus app. You can also check us out on YouTube and on Spotify. And we'll see you guys next time.